Morning, Cibolo Valley. This being Christmas time, I'd like to do a little bit of a different kind of devotional on what was the Christmas star. Uh, from comets to supernova explosions, we would like to discover some of the theories about the Star of Bethlehem. What could have been the Star of Bethlehem? Over the years, many astronomical explanations have been suggested for this key aspect of the Christmas story. Now, the Christmas star, or Star of Bethlehem, is described in the Bible. Some of what we know of the Star of Bethlehem was originally included in the book of Matthew, and some of it has come down to us as interpretation or embellishment. Now, that piece of Matthew, if you want to investigate it, is in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. There is no mention of there being three kings, only magi, that is, wise men or magicians or possibly astrologers, who left three gifts. The Greek word generally translated as star, aster or astra, from which we get astronomy, can also mean planet or could refer to other objects such as a comet. There is no mention that the star is particularly bright in Scripture, and it doesn't have significance for anyone other than the Magi, which means they have been the only one to see it. However, over the years, there have been many possible explanations suggested for this element of the Christmas story. Is there an astronomical basis for the Star of Bethlehem? Explanation one that has been given: the Christmas star was a nova or supernova explosion. The idea that the Magi saw a nova or supernova explosion was hinted at by the 17th century astronomer Johannes Kepler, and has had many supporters since then. However, there's no Western record of such an event. Chinese records only have one possible mention of a nova or supernova over the potential time of Jesus' birth, between 2 and 7 BC. There is also no known supernova remnant, which is always left after a star blows up, which we would expect to find if there had been a supernova at this time. Explanation 2. The Christmas star was a comet. This explanation has its origin even further back in time than Kepler, dating to the early Christian theologian Origen in AD 248. Again, Chinese records can be invoked but give no good support apart from the potential 5 BC nova comet event. We're not sure which that was. One advantage of the comet theory is that comets move across the sky. It had been argued that this fits the interpretation of the Gospel of Matthew, that the star moved as it directed the Magi, or wise men. However, this same argument could be applied to an object moving with the stars if the journey of the Magi took some months, because they do move along with our movement around the sun. Most classical depictions of the Nativity show the star as a comet. Astronomy, myth, and art come together beautifully when we're talking about this. Explanation 3. The Christmas star was a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn coming together in the sky. Kepler is also associated with this idea that it was a close conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that created the star. In fact, 3 conjunctions took place where the two planets were close to one another in the sky, but they weren't close enough that they'd appear as one object. However, such an event could have been religious or of astrological or religious significance. Explanation 4. The Christmas star was a stationary point of Jupiter. Jupiter, in its apparent path across the sky, is generally seen to move from east to west across a starry background. But due to the relative movements of the Earth and the planets, this motion appears to slow and then stops as a planet reaches what is called its stationary point. And then if we're on the other side of the sun from Jupiter, it actually looks like it backs up. The planet then appears to move from east to west for some days before again stopping and resuming its west-east movement. At the possible time of the birth of Christ in the Bible, one of the stationary points could have occurred when Jupiter was directly overhead at Bethlehem at the same time of the night and for several nights. The disadvantage of this explanation lies in the lack of rarity of the phenomenon, as it would happen every year. Explanation 5. The Christmas star was a conjunction of Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus, all three coming together. One other possibility includes a set of conjunctions of the planets Jupiter, Venus, and the bright star Regulus. In this case, the mythologies associated with the objects become important. Jupiter in Hebrew is known as Sedek, which is often translated as meaning righteousness. Jupiter is also viewed as being the king of the planets. Regulus itself in Latin for prince or little king. And Venus is often viewed as a symbol of love, fertility, and birth. As such, the combination of these objects close in the sky could have led to the interpretation of the birth of the King of Kings. Now, tonight, on Tuesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. at Faith Lutheran Church, we're going to have a viewing of a video on this called The Star of Bethlehem. It's a documentary focused on the last scenario of the conjunction of Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus. However, as will be described in our meeting, a star would not go before the Magi, nor turn south from Jerusalem toward Bethlehem as the scriptures described, nor shine over just one house. At the end of the day, what the Magi saw may have been a celestial event at the start, but what proceeded before them and shone on them in Bethlehem was truly a supernatural miracle from God. We hope that during this Christmas season, you experience a kind of miracle, the miracle of peace of God that comes when you consider what He's done for us. And if you have interest in exploring this story of what the Star of Bethlehem was, please join us tonight at 7 p.m. at Faith Lutheran. And we're out.